Frederick Douglass, he was the most photographed American of his time, but he was also the most traveled abolitionist. Like he traveled all over the world. We're still finding places like we didn't realize that Frederick Douglass visited in his lifetime. So this year we're launching, Frederick Douglass Travel Club, and our first trip is to Scotland.
Welcome to Shaping Freedom. These conversations are about how freedom is actually formed, what we inherit, what stops working, and the choices that change how we live and lead. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. Today's conversation, which I had planned to talk about in a different way, but there's so many exciting things that have happened just in the 10 minutes before we're starting to record this conversation that it has turned everything around. So I'm going to get through the introduction, and what we have in our midst today is a New York Times best-selling author. Okay, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But as of today, number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list, and I have a feeling that that's going to shift and ascend by the time this episode airs. So today's conversation brings together 3 people whose work approaches freedom from very different but also very deeply connected directions. Kenneth B. Morris Jr. is the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass and the great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington. So this gentleman has a lot of energy. He is the co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. That includes Frederick Douglass Books, by the way. That is the publishing house that published this book that we're going to talk about in a moment. So I'm having the opportunity to witness beautiful celebration in this room. But he's the co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives, where he continues his family's work through education, human rights advocacy, and efforts to confront modern systems of exploitation. Dr. Paulette Brown-Hinds is the publisher of Black Voice News and the founder of Voice Media Ventures. She is also a longtime leader of Footsteps to Freedom, which is an immersive heritage study experience that traces the roots and stories of freedom seekers. Her work sits at the intersection of journalism, community memory, civic information, education, and legacy. And then we have Teri Ijeoma, who is an investor, an educator, an author, and the founder of Trade and Travel. Her new novel, The Risk Worth Taking, as of a few moments ago, we all found out, is number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. So we are all sitting in the energy of that, and that is what you are hearing in all this incredible excitement, because how beautiful is it to bear witness to the collaborative effort between Teri, having written the book, and Kenneth leading Frederick Douglass Books, which is an imprint of Forefront Books and Simon & Schuster, to just bear witness to this incredible moment for this team. Oh my gosh, you should feel what's in this room right now. I hope you can feel it in my voice, because this is the longest introduction in history. The book uses fiction to explore trading, personal reinvention, financial confidence, and the decision to create a life with greater freedom and flexibility. Together, Kenneth and Paulette are launching the Frederick Douglass Travel Club, beginning with an October 2026 journey through Scotland that retraces Frederick Douglass's historic 1845 through 1846 anti-slavery lecture tour. Teri will join that journey as a guest speaker, as a guest New York Times best-selling speaker. Kenneth, Paulette, and Teri, thank you for having the patience to get through the longest introduction in history, and welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast. This could not have been planned better.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Wow. So, and this is a question for each one of you. When you hear the word freedom, what does that mean to you personally? Not historically, not professionally or intellectually, but personally. What does the word freedom mean to each one of you?
We should start with the New York Times best-selling author.
Yeah.
Number 3, right out of the gate.
Well, I went through a season where I was in a really toxic work environment, and I would be crying in the bathroom all the time. So freedom for me means being able to be in control of my own time, my own schedule. I call it my who, what, when, where. Who I work with, when I work, where I work from, and then what I work on. That is freedom to me. Being able to truly be in control of my own schedule and have options.
Teri, mine is so similar to that. I wasn't in a toxic environment. I was a professor at a university, my first job, University of Cincinnati. But I had decided to leave home and for the first time. And my parents, who run the newspaper, my family's business, the newspaper, they kept pulling me back. They wouldn't let me go, actually. They kept sending me things while I was a professor. I was still editing their work. But I just felt like I needed to be back in California and be back home in my community. And so when I came back, I had decided that I needed to work for myself. And I think that came from being, at the university, only having the paycheck from the university. And so I just set, really a focus on how do I run this family business, which is really my family's legacy. And so for me, the freedom to be able to do that and do it well and contribute back to the community is kind of the way I think about freedom for myself.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think about freedom in a number of different ways. I certainly think about my personal freedom, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and now running our nonprofit organization, our family foundation. But I also think about freedom as it pertains to my ancestors. Both of my ancestors, Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, were born into slavery, and they understood from a very young age that education was going to be their pathway to freedom. And when I look at their stories and I look at the work that we do at our organization, the foundation of the work we do is education, and it's based on my ancestors literally having to steal their freedom, because we know from our U.S. history that it was illegal to teach an enslaved person to read and write. And so it's really kind of this connection to my ancestors and the inheritance that they've passed down that really comes to mind first when I think about the word freedom.
I hosted a dinner last week, and there was a chef, shout out to Chef David down in San Diego. And someone asked him, as he was kind of talking about the meal that he created, the question of like where he came from came up, because he runs a restaurant that has like a Mediterranean African thing to it. And I'd never heard anyone say this before, but he introduced himself and identified himself as someone who is the descendant of slavery. And I'd never heard someone say that before. And this is the second time in a week, because that was last Wednesday, the second time in a week that someone has said that. And so I don't know, we don't really have or talk about that when we discuss like where we're from. Like we say, I'm Haitian and Puerto Rican, and we don't really talk about that, like what that means to actually be the descendant of slavery, of slaves. So I just kind of brought that up for me, what that conversation is.
Yeah.
Because like any other kind of newer generation, first generation, you have to take into account everything that happened before you got here that leads to you standing in the doorway of your ancestors, that happen to include, like, they carry enormous historical weight, sir.
So I better acknowledge that.
Enormous historical weight. So I guess my question is, like, when did you first understand that your family's history was just not like everyone else's? If there was a moment.
There was, and I'll try and keep it as concise as possible, because it could be as long as your introduction.
We could be here for 12 hours. Yeah. Xavier's not going to let us do that, but this is,
There was never a time when someone sat me down and said, we have something really important to tell you about your ancestry. I just always knew. I spent all of my summers at Frederick Douglass's summer beach house in a place called Highland Beach, Maryland. which was founded by my great-great-grandfather, Charles Douglas, who was Frederick and Anna Murray's youngest son. Charles had purchased some acreage on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay, and he was a real estate developer, so he sold off the parcels, but he kept three, one plot for his family, one for his brother Haley, and then one for his father Frederick. Anna had passed away. We're talking about late 1890s now. And so he asked his father, are there any special features that you want in the house? And Frederick said, yes, I want you to put it right on the water. I want you to point it in a certain direction and build a tower at the top. Because what he wanted to do at the end of his life was to sit in that tower, look back across the water, the Chesapeake Bay, and on the other side you can see land, and that land is the eastern shore of Maryland, where he had been born into slavery with the name Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. And even though he had spent the first 20 years of his life enslaved, he never wanted to forget where he came from. He wanted to know where he came from, because we believe, and we teach this to young people, you need to know where you come from. We were just talking about that, to know where you're headed. So in that house, there were images of my ancestors in every room. And I remember being about 5 or 6 and starting to notice that my ancestors were on statues and they were on money and postage stamps, and schools were named for them and bridges were named for them. And everywhere I turned, I could start to feel that I kind of in this long, vast shadow of two of this country's greatest and most influential heroes. And from a very early age, I started to feel that weight of expectation, which actually took me a number of years. I was well into my 40s before I really started to step out of that shadow into my own shoes.
Yeah, that was one of my next question. My follow-up question was going to be about I heard or understand that you spent some time distancing yourself from your family's legacy. What were you trying to protect yourself from, or why did you distance yourself?
Initially, it was, I think, my parents and my grandparents, great-grandmothers trying to protect me and my younger brother and sister from these very formidable legacies. I had seen what the pressure had done to those that came before me. And when I was younger, the few times that I would tell people of my relationship, nobody ever believed me. And I never thought that it was a point worth arguing. And then my grandfather, Frederick Douglass III, who was the namesake of Frederick Douglass, he was a brilliant man. He was a surgeon. And he always carried this weight of expectation on his shoulders, and people expected him to be an iconic leader like his great-grandfather, Frederick Douglass. But there's only one Frederick Douglass, and when my grandmother was 3 months pregnant with my mother, he took his own life. And so my mother was born without a father and raised without a father. And then when I came along with the dual lineage, the first male to carry the dual lineage in the family, there was kind of this hedge of protection that was put around us. And so that was really kind of contributed to being, as I describe it, decisively disengaged from my lineage.
That's interesting, because I'm listening to you and I'm looking down the path and down the road at my own family, where, my brother's legacy and the work that my father did to, my background started off, my professional background was in corporate. And it was very important to my father that Gerard Basquiat, because I like to name the people, it was very important to him that I had the opportunity, and my sister had the opportunity, to build our own lives so that we wouldn't feel weighted by what it meant to be the sibling and within the family of Jean-Michel Basquiat. And as I'm listening to you talk, it wasn't until later in my life, after I had established myself, that I started to feel more comfortable really paying attention to what his legacy meant, beyond him being my brother, what his legacy meant to the rest of the world. And I now have children who are adults, and I have grandchildren. And so I'm thinking about them and the ways, the work that we're doing as a family, my sister and I, to kind of help our children. And I have grandchildren, like how to have them see this as something that they can not be weighted down by, but to decide how they're going to interact with this incredible legacy. So it's interesting to have this conversation,
can relate to that, for
right?
Sure, yeah.
And to see, like, down the path, I'm going to have a great grandchild who will have that conversation and have to reckon with those thoughts and what that actually means.
Yeah.
My granddaughter Emma, who's 9 years old, and my grandson, they are living a very different life in terms of like the people that they get exposed to. And so I know they have a lot of those thoughts as well. We'll figure that out.
That's right.
We talk a lot about the legacy that we want to leave, but what about the one that we're living in right now? I'm Lisane Basquiat. I'm a board-certified NLP expert and a legacy healing strategist. I created Shaping Freedom to help our community move from autopilot to authority. Whether it's through my podcast, the Lounging with Lisane meditations, or our signature candles and journals, I provide the elite tools that you need to heal and to lead your family more effectively. Own your evolution. Visit shapingfreedom.com. That's shapingfreedom.com. Paulette, you're also carrying a Forward, a family institution. This is a legacy room.
I'm over here like, I got questions for these legacies.
Right? You're also carrying Forward a family institution, and you spoke a little bit about it before, but Black Voice News was founded in 1972, and you are its second generation publisher. What did you inherit emotionally along with the business itself?
Oh my gosh. I talk about my parents, and I do like to name my parents. My mother's a former assembly member in California, Cheryl Brown, and my dad, Hardy Brown. I talk about them. They're freedom fighters, and if they don't have a fight, they're going to go find a fight, and I honestly don't think I inherited that from them. I'm more of the kind of caretaker of the legacy. I see myself as kind of the caretaker. But my parents, they are the freedom fighters. Actually, our theme this year. So we have the Black Voice News, as you mentioned, and it is a community based news organization in Southern California. We speak for and with the Black community. And, so I inherited, that institution. And I, really, for me, it's been not just a passion work, but I feel like the person who's supposed to be the caretaker of the institution. But it's been here for now. This is our 54th. Actually, this week is our 54th week, our 54th year.
Wow!
Yeah, this is our 54th
Congratulations.
year. Thank you. This week we celebrated our 54th. Next year will be our big 55th. And for me, it's been something I've grown up with my whole life. We took over the paper when I was in elementary school, and so I always talk about it as there are 4 kids in the family. I always talk about it as the fifth, as the fifth child. But what has been important to me is taking that work and looking forward and what is the future. And so it's not just the historic Black press, but what does the Black press look like in the future? Right. So I'm doing a lot with data and mapping. We actually started a big mapping initiative. We do a lot with GIS because we think that's important.
What is GIS?
Geographic Information System. So it's a technology like digital mapping, but we do a lot where we take, it's not just the stories, but the data that's important to us, and making sure that we make it accessible to our community. And so that's when I think of our work, and the work that I'm supposed to do is like, here's the legacy, but what does it look like moving forward? And then how do we make it sustainable? That's the other thing. People always talk about what's happening with news, especially newspapers now as a business. And so I'm constantly looking at how to make it work as a business. One thing with my parents, it was their kind of civic leadership. They considered the newspaper their civic duty. And so it wasn't about, necessarily business. And so that I have staff, I have overhead, and we have expenses. And so I have to think about it as a business.
Yeah.
So it's one thing that, the foundation was laid, but now I have to look at it and look kind of forward thinking. What am I leaving to? We talk about the next generation. What are we leaving for my son, my nieces, and my nephews, and our, and the future of our community? The newspaper also includes our work with Footsteps to Freedom, which, you mentioned in my introduction. My mother, as a publisher, she was also editor. So when my mother ran the business, she did everything. I have now hired people, so I have a hired editor.
Good for you.
We have our full-time journalists, which has been, I was proud that we hired full-time journalists. But my mother would do everything. So she took this trip, this Underground Railroad trip, and was writing about it. Ended up being asked to present to school districts about it, and ended up doing a tour that this is our 30th year celebrating that I run in partnership with my brother. It's part of our family. And then of course, Ken is one of our longtime conductors and partners in this work. So that was another thing where it was like, how do we take this important initiative, institution, and make sure that it's here in the future? And so that's why I think of the work I do is kind of caretaking, and that's what I feel like it's not my vision, but it's taking the vision and the legacy from the family and making sure that it's here for future generations.
And so what you're doing really is next gen leadership, right? And so how do you take something that was created with a vision that was very relevant to the time, and taking that original vision and not having that vision limit its future? And I think in some ways you're doing that in the way that you're structuring the operation and the ways that you're getting some support and all of that. But it is really a next generation leadership thing that you're in. And how do you move it forward, respecting the way it was created, but also shifting it into something that works for you for a future path?
Well, and that was a challenge.
Yes, I know it is.
That was a challenge. And I don't often publicly talk about how challenging it was. When I first started, after I left teaching and came back to California, I was like, how do I work with my parents? And I as a scholar, so I have a PhD in English literature as a professor. So I went back to my academic roots and I started studying family business. So I was just reading about family business. And I was like, there's a family business institute in our region. And I'm looking at the workshops that they're hosting. I'm like, how do I do this? So I kind of structured the business at the time so that I had my own company and my parents would contract with me, so that I had a little bit of flexibility to do things, to invest in things that they wouldn't normally want us to invest in.
Did that give you the freedom?
It did.
Okay.
It was probably the best move that I made.
Yeah, that's a really smart move.
It was the best move that I made. It really, really was. That helped sustain me through the first 10 years of challenge, because it was a long 10 years of, but it helped me, now. So now it's funny. It got to the point where my parents, when things are successful on the other end, they're taking credit.
Come on, man.
Shout out to my parents. I love my parents.
Yeah, but of course.
They were, taking credit for things. And because I don't have an ego in that way, I'm okay with sharing that credit. Yeah. And so it wasn't, a problem. Ken knows, because he's gone through
That's
that.
why I'm chuckling over here.
He's gone through this with me on the Footsteps tour. And, my mother started it 30 years ago. And when she started it, it was just we would just do one trip a summer. It was it was almost like a little week vacation for it, a week-long vacation. It was 1 week, 30 people we would take. And my brother and I started working on it together.
What is your brother's name?
My brother's Hardy Brown the second. And we started working together. And he has a marketing background, and he just blew the trip up. So it became now we have 4 trips. This year we had 3, but we had 350 people because we made it.
Where did you start
from 30 to 350?
30 people to 350.
Well, it was 30 down to 10.
Yeah.
Remember that one summer we thought that was going to be the end of the tour. Yeah. But Hardy, he hadn't even been on the trip yet, and he was marketing it and selling it, and then he finally came on it. But it's, all credit to Hardy for where it is now and the 350 people that we had this summer, the educators we had this summer.
Yeah, we had our one single largest tour this summer, 140 people at one time, 3 buses. And, you know, we could do this, we can do this. But it was a challenge even with that. The newspaper was one thing, and I tried to not disrupt my parents' vision for the paper. When I finally did, we had a big fight. It was a huge fight. And I just had to stand my ground at that point.
Good for you.
You know, and I said, look, I have to do it my way or I'm not going to do it, you know, and to their credit, they were like,
well, we want you to do it.
Right.
Okay. With the tours, I think similarly, my mother got elected to the state assembly. She couldn't go on the tours anymore. You know, she was she was running for, it was like during campaign. She was, you know, her campaign manager said, you cannot go. And so she reluctantly, she went to the airport. She was ready to go. And she's looked in the
suitcase and all.
Yeah, she had the suitcases. She had all of, we always tell the story on the tour. She had like all these videotapes that she normally shows. And she just rolls the case over to me at the airport.
Oh my goodness.
And just looks at me and I'm like, we got it. We got this.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how did that feel? Don't pass over that.
Yeah.
Like, because I saw like a scene in my head. You're at an airport. They're calling out, you know, group number, whatever. Get on.
And it's still dark because it's like dark. 5 a.m.
Yeah. She's ready to go. You two are standing there next to each other.
Right.
She rolls the suitcase over to you. It's like, how did that feel?
You know, I felt empowered. I did feel empowered. I felt that I knew I could do it. I wasn't worried about that, but I was really more concerned about how she felt in that moment because this was her thing. This was her baby. And
she was giving it up.
Yeah. And we always wanted to make her, and Ken knows this because we want to make her proud in what we're doing. And then we didn't want her to worry. And so I think all of that for me at that moment, it was like, we can do it. I wasn't worried. But I knew it was so hard on her. I'm sure she went home and cried. Like, I know it was like, you know, because this was something for her and something we did together for quite a few years as well. I've been doing it since 2000, so 26 years.
Oh, wow.
And for this first time this year, she came back for the whole trip.
That's wonderful. And how long ago was that
2012
moment?
was when 2012
was the suitcase
rolling moment.
But she hadn't been on the trip for the full trip.
2012.
Yes.
14
So the year before that, so 2011.
Wow.
She hadn't been on.
And we were able to give her flowers all along the trip.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to say that when we've traveled to Kentucky. So we've taken over the years thousands of educators through Kentucky.
I want to go on this trip, by the way. I want to do this trip.
You have to go next year.
And I want to do it in Scotland. I want to. Yes.
So the governor of Kentucky, the highest designation for a citizen in Kentucky is the Kentucky Colonel designation. So we were able to get that for her and present it to her in Kentucky. So now we have to, I refer to her as Colonel.
Oh, that is wonderful. Is that the phone call she's been waiting for?
Okay.
Can we let her have her phone call? Do you want us to cut for it, or are we okay?
We can keep rolling.
So we're including
Hey, Jonathan.
Can you move the mic?
Yeah, and
Congratulations.
And you're here with Ken too. Ken.
Hey, Jonathan.
That's why I'm interrupting.
Well, since Jonathan has now joined the podcast, this is Lisane Basquiat. Hi, Jonathan. Since you're joining, we got to say, we have to introduce who is Jonathan.
I'm interrupting this program.
You're not interrupting. You're not interrupting. You're joining. You're joining.
Okay, go ahead.
We are interrupting this program to make a special announcement that A Risk Worth Taking by Teri Ijeoma is number 3 on the New York Times bestseller.
That's right. That's right. Woo-hoo.
Risk Worth Taking.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You have worked your tail off and it has paid off.
Yes.
We are so excited for her.
You are a New York Times best-selling author, and you are number 3 on the advice and how-to list. I just texted you the list.
Oh my goodness. Now, Jonathan, how hard is it to be on the New York Times? Like, why should I be excited about this?
Turn it around so we can.
Less than a fraction of 1% of authors who ever write a book make the New York Times.
What?
Wow.
Wow.
You think about that, and you are number 3 on that list.
Wow.
I mean, that's just incredible.
Debuting.
That's so cool. And
We are
saw
so
her
excited
behind
for her.
Atomic Habits and Let Them Theory. Like, that's cute.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. That's exactly huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge, not cute. Huge.
Huge.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
So congratulations. Yes.
And who is Jonathan?
So celebrate.
Front
It's
books.
time to celebrate.
Can we say
And-
who Jonathan is since he's now a
Jonathan, they were
guest?
wondering who you are. Will you tell them who you are since you're on the podcast with us?
I am president and CEO of Forefront Books.
Woohoo!
Founder.
Yes. And you are the founder of the Frederick Douglass, or the founder of the publisher with the Frederick Douglass imprint on it.
Yes, so our company has an imprint, a partnership with Ken on Frederick Douglass books, and this is the first Frederick Douglass book to be a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah!
Wow! Yay! Claps for
Oh
that.
my goodness,
Claps for
Joe.
that.
Talking about some
Yeah, what a
awareness for the
celebration.
imprint.
What a
Wow.
celebration.
There you go.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So
So
excited.
congratulations to all, and so happy for you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your support, like everything, even like helping us get books across the country. We got the books
We've
to,
been working hard.
yes, we got the books to NAACP. They handed out 1,000
Yeah.
on the first day, and we're just like, we want more books. So then we had to send more to them. We had like the Black Christian Influencers Conference, the podcast conference. We've been moving,
Mm-hmm.
but
Wow.
So,
thank you so much.
we need to make sure and get a hold of your friend that has NAB2,
Jill.
Jill. We need to let her know as well.
Yes. I'll text her right after our podcast.
We are actually in the middle of it.
Thank you. And we got to tell Rory. Did you tell Rory? They let
Rory
us.
knows.
Okay.
Rory knows.
He's listening
I'm
to
so
a message this
excited.
morning about USA Today.
Yeah. And so thank you for letting me interrupt.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thanks,
joining.
Jonathan.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.
I love
That's great.
Wow, that was beautiful.
That's so sweet.
You all should see her face.
He has a text message. I'm trying to interrupt your podcast to tell you made the list. That's so sweet.
Wow.
Wow.
So I want to wrap this, and then we're going to talk to the New York Times bestselling author over there. Okay, so 30 years, you're celebrating 30 years this year.
Yeah.
And my question was around kind of the next gen leadership part of it, and you kind of taking that torch and some of the challenges that happened along the way with that.
Yeah, I give my, so I mentioned my brother, and Ken mentioned that the year that we had only 10 participants. So the way that the tours are designed is we work with school districts and we take educators. I love that we take teachers, administrators, but we also take janitors and secretaries, classified employees. So anyone, it's a professional development opportunity. It's a leadership opportunity for folks. But our business model's been working with school districts, primarily in Southern California. Although now we have some in Northern California. The challenge is one year, it was a horrible budget year, and we only had one district, and we had one person who believed in the tour. She was a superintendent at the school district, and she said, look, I can send 10 people. And it really, instead of sending, before that, it was more of a focus on kind of education and teaching the Underground Railroad. And once we had the group of 10, they were parents and teachers, anyone who touched the lives of the students. And we realized that the experience isn't just about learning Underground Railroad history, right? It's like this transformational opportunity through learning about these abolitionists, learning about these folks who self-emancipated, because that's an important aspect of the tour. And it's being in those places. It's sitting, at the Ohio River and knowing that one side is is enslavement and the other side is freedom. And in seeing like just that geography and understanding those stories. And so that year was the year that shifted for us. Working with my brother, with Ken, with Dr. Daniel Walker, who's another one of our historians who's been with us for almost the same length of time. We have a running joke. Daniel and I are the longest serving conductors. Ken's still a baby with like 21 years. But no, we kind of joke about it, but having this kind of strong team, we've been able to just build it up. But even now for me, thinking about what's next. And so we have the tours, we have our partnerships, but what are we missing? And Ken and I had been talking for years about Frederick Douglass. You know, he was the most photographed American of his time, but he was also the most traveled abolitionist. Like he traveled all over the world. We're still finding places like we didn't realize that Frederick Douglass visited in his lifetime. And so we're like, what would that look like? Really expanding the way we, think about our work, at least on the tour side and the experiential learning side. And so this year we're launching, Frederick Douglass Travel Club, and our first trip is to Scotland. It will be, it's been exciting. I went to Scotland last year. I'm going back in a few weeks, and Ken went last year for the first time. We thought it was going to be, our first trip would be Ireland. And then when I went to Scotland, I was like, no. I mean, what Frederick Douglass did when he was there, his connections, when he landed on the shores there, he was named an anti-slavery agent, and he had not just the relationships with the folks on the abolitionist side, but he was actively and passionately speaking out against folks who were really benefiting from slavery right in their face. Like, right, when the Church of Scotland, these merchants, this whole industry and really the wealth of Scotland is really built on slavery. It's really like when you start to really dig into that. So we, got together and last year decided our first trip would be Scotland. And so for me, it's thinking about what is the future footsteps to freedom, in partnerships like this with Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives is one of those ways that I'm envisioning, looking differently at our work and expanding our work.
And what is the Frederick Douglass Travel Club exactly?
It's our group. We're hoping to grow folks who want to travel and learn. And that's why Teri
who's a guest speaker.
Travel.
Yeah.
Whose New York Times selling book is on the Frederick Douglass imprint. We were like, Teri. And so Kenny's like, you have to meet him. We have to meet, so he introduced us. We had a call. This is our first time meeting in person. But Teri and her mother, Mama Teri.
Yeah.
Who does a lot with travel as well and education. They were like, we want to come. Yeah. And so we were excited that we were able to kind of bring all these things together. We're finding that we were marketing it to folks who follow, Frederick Douglass's, the work of Frederick Douglass Family Initiative. We also have thousands of people, as Ken mentioned, that are part of Footsteps to Freedom family that have gone over the years, who are signing up to attend. And I've told Ken, there's people who want to learn when they travel, cultural experiences, but they also don't want to travel alone. So we're finding that there are those people who are saying, hey, I'm a solo traveler, but I want to work with your group. So we're hoping to build it up, and we're starting with the international, but Kenny and I keep talking about, even Frederick Douglass in the States, in kind of the Eastern Shore, experience, something we wanted to do. When we go on our Footsteps to Freedom tour, we start in Kentucky, we go through Ohio, we're into Michigan, we go through Canada. So we're in those small townships where freedom seekers, their descendants now, 6th and 7th generation, are living there. We meet them. And then we end in upstate New York, in Rochester, where Frederick Douglass ran the North Star newspaper and is buried. He and Anna Marie Douglass are buried. But along the way, there's always like a Frederick Douglass story or image. And he just traveled. He was on the road, and Ken could speak to that, probably better than I could. He was traveling all over. So we're like, we may do a trip that's not an international trip, but just one that's, here in the U.S. So we're going to see what it develops into. But we're excited about it.
So is this the first, and this is going to be my segue to Teri, who is a guest speaker during this. Is this the first one?
This is the first one.
So this is the Frederick Douglass Travel Club. And where is this? This first one's going to Scotland.
The first one, we will be in Edinburgh, Scotland. And we'll be doing day trips to Glasgow. We'll do one to Dundee and Perth, October 6th through the 11th. And so it's our first one. Teri will be joining us. We have purchased this wonderful book for all of the participants, and we're going to work with her on a special event where we'll talk with her about her experience, about the book itself, but also just about her life. Because one of the things that, she mentioned in her introduction was being in a toxic work environment. She was an educator.
We're going to talk about that.
And so we have a lot of educators.
That's our audience. Educators. Yeah, our audience for Footsteps to Freedom are educators. There.
Okay.
And so it's a perfect, I think, melding of the brands together with what Teri is doing with Trade and Travel and the freedom that brings.
Yeah. So is the toll booth closed to this next trip?
No, it's not. No,
well, say not. That.
It is open. We have several seats left.
Okay.
So we have a goal. It's not going to be like our big trip. So we're looking for 40 folks. So we have maybe 15 seats left on the tour. We have a wonderful group of women. I have to do shout out to Kathy Blumenfield, who's a colleague of mine on the James Irvine Foundation board. She's organized a group of Black women who golf, and they're going to tour with us, and then they're going to go to
I've heard that there is incredible golfing happening in Scotland.
That's where they're
Okay, I have heard. Yeah, I actually have a friend who spends 13 weeks, I think he does, out there specifically to golf.
Yeah, it's that's the first kind of golf course is in Scotland. So this group is going to go to St. Andrews for lessons, actually, golf lessons. But it's a group of Black women who are like, we're learning to golf. Some of them are more expert than others. Some of them are just novices, but they're like, we're going to go. So they're going to spend 3 days with us, the core days with us, and then they're going to go for their experience together to golf for a couple of days.
Okay, so if you're looking for a different kind of travel experience, if you are a person who wants to just add some adventure to your life, go somewhere, right? Just go someplace different. You'll have the opportunity to get some historical context. You will have an opportunity to meet different people in a different place. You'll get the experience of walking with these folks who have done this in a different way for a really, really long time. You'll have the guest speaker, Teri Ijeoma. Ijeoma, did I do that right? Yeah. Right. Ijeoma, who will be there, and we'll talk about how she's going to support this effort. Yeah. But this is in early October. And I know that there are a lot of folks who are, me included, where we work so hard and we do so much. And sometimes we can get caught up in our day-to-day routine. And I have found historically for me that the thing to help me to kind of get into a different place, to have a new way of thinking, a new creative way of approaching something that's happening, is to just get into a different environment. So if any of that resonates with you, sign up for this thing.
Yeah. And I can add one more thing to it. Another dynamic that we've seen with some of the guest participants that have signed up already, some of them are traveling solo. And so we've had people tell us that they've wanted to go to Scotland and don't want to travel by themselves. And so this is an opportunity to be able to be with a group and then get everything that you just
That's mentioned. Right. Yeah. So for those of you who are like, I want to go somewhere, I don't want to go by myself, you have folks who have walked this path, who can walk you through it, and sign up for that.
Today, we talked about what it means to inherit a history and a family institution. We also talked about the responsibility that comes along with that sometimes is stated for you way before you even walk into the room. Kenneth and Paulette reminded us that honoring a legacy doesn't require us to repeat it exactly as we've received it. Sometimes honoring what comes before us means allowing it to actually evolve. It also means finding our own place within the story and deciding how we're going to move it forward. We also learned about the Frederick Douglass Travel Club and its inaugural journey to Scotland, a chance to experience history on the ground where Frederick Douglass's own understanding of freedom and his international influence expanded. In part 2, we're going to bring Teri Ijeoma's conversation fully onto the table. We'll talk about the risk that she took to leave an expected path, the relationship between knowledge and freedom, and why financial agency belongs in any serious conversation about legacy. We'll also explore the difference between what we inherit and what we are personally being asked to do with our lives. So stay with us for part 2. Love and peace.